Tonight on Politicat, U.S. Senator John Fetterman returns to the Senate after checking into the hospital for depression, how his return and leave is being received.
And leaked documents from the Pentagon concerning China and the war in Ukraine. What is in those documents, and what it means for foreign affairs and national security.
Also, how access to the abortion pill mifepristone is being determined in the Supreme Court. Those stories and more tonight on Politicat.
It's your politics
right now.
Access to a widely used abortion pill isn't...
Hello, I'm Paris Franzway.
And I'm Shravya Pant. Starting off tonight, access to a widely used abortion pill is in question in some state legislatures. On Friday, Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito put a hold on a lower court ruling that restricted access to mifepristone. Politicat's Angela Zhang is here to talk us through the most recent ruling updates and how exactly these court decisions came to be. Angela?
Thank you, Shravya. Justice Alito's action follows a formal request from the Justice Department, urging the court to block the decision. This hold remains until Wednesday. However, the case currently brought to the Supreme Court is not a standalone. It follows a series of disputes over abortion access since last year's overturning of Roe v. Wade. In November of 2022, a coalition of anti-abortion groups called the Alliance for Hippocratic Medicine filed a lawsuit in Texas. The group calling for the reversal of the FDA's approval of the abortion bill. They argued the FDA did not have authority to allow mifepristone's usage. And earlier this month, U.S. District Judge Matthew Kacsmaryk ruled in agreement with the alliance, issuing a nationwide pause on the FDA's approval. In response, U.S. District Judge Thomas O. Rice issued a lawsuit from Washington State seeking to stop the FDA from removing mifepristone from the market. The original case became elevated as the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals joined, ruling in partial favor for the FDA side and Kacsmaryk's injunction. Though the approval is kept in place, the appeals court imposed tighter restrictions on mifepristone's distribution and usage. Alito's call ceases the Texas court order that would have taken effect on Saturday, April 15th. Currently, mifepristone is available in 37 states and is among the most common abortion medications used in the U.S. Now, let's take a look at the potential impacts the Supreme Court's decision could have. If Kacsmaryk's decision were to go into effect, meaning the Supreme Court approves of his injunction, mifepristone would not be cut off immediately, but its distribution would be greatly reduced. Mifepristone may also stop being administered by mail or telehealth. Citizen coalitions on both sides point to health concerns, with pro-abortion protesters stating mifepristone has been used safely for decades, and anti-abortion groups stating the opposite. Many abortion rights supporters are rallying against Kacsmaryk's decision to limit access. As of now, stakeholders will have to wait until this Wednesday, tomorrow, when the Supreme Court, which has a conservative majority, weighs in.
Thanks, Angela. Politicat will keep you informed on updates regarding the case in the coming weeks.
Highly classified Pentagon documents have been leaked in the last few weeks, appearing on Discord, a messaging platform used largely in the online gaming community. The documents contain classified U.S. intelligence on China and the war in Ukraine. The U.S. has since opened a criminal investigation into the security breach. Jack Teixeira, a 21-year-old airman in the Massachusetts National Guard, has been arrested for his alleged connection to the leak. Now, joining us this evening are Politicat's Aria Wozniak and Lance Wilhelm, who have been following the significance of these leaks on national security. Thank you for being here. Lance, let's start with you. How exactly were these top secret documents leaked in the first place?
Right, thanks for having me, Paris. So Jack Teixeira was working at Otis Air National Guard Base in Cape Cod. And while he was there, his official title was Cyber Transport Systems Journeyman, which essentially means he was an IT operator. And while he was working at this Air National Guard Base, he was also a Discord community moderator for the community Thug Shaker Central. And it was on this community that there were frequent conversations about guns and the military. And again, on this community is where he leaked those Pentagon documents. It's also important to note that there is no typical there's no motive in this leaking. It's seemingly just to impress people on that Discord community.
Interesting. Now, Aria, in the weeks since these papers have been released, what are some of the most significant findings in the documents?
Yeah, Paris, these documents have provided the public a rare opportunity to see the extent of U.S. intelligence gathering capabilities with both its allies and its adversaries. The documents detail South Korea's plans to sell ammunition to Ukraine, as well as details of mapping of the battlefields and weaponry. They have also revealed that there are protests in Israel where the Mossad, the Israeli National Intelligence, has encouraged protests against the government over judicial reform. The U.S. Press Secretary and National Security Council have confirmed that some of these documents have been doctored.
Now, Lance, let's take it back to you. What are we seeing in terms of potential impacts on foreign relations and national security?
Right, so for enemies of the United States, the fact that this random IT guy who was a 21-year-old nonetheless had access to this top secret information shows that, as the New York Times put it, top secret really is not so secret after all. And so in the recent days, you've seen a crackdown on who actually has that top secret level of clearance. And bottom line, Paris, these documents not only revealed how much the US was spying on our enemies, but also how much the US was spying on our allies, including South Korea and Israel. And anytime trust from our allies is put in jeopardy, it emboldens our enemies and makes the United States more vulnerable.
Now, Aria, what specifically have we learned about the war in Ukraine from this leak?
Yeah, this leak has been very exposing, showing that there are Ukraine shortages in ammunition, air defense, and military position, which is significant as Kyiv prepares for a counteroffensive against Russia in spring. While it's publicizing this apparent shortage could give comfort to Russia, it could also energize partners of Ukraine to accelerate delivery of defense capabilities. We have yet to see exactly the influence in terms of political support for Ukraine, but it's important that we remember some of these documents were confirmed to be altered as we look at these documents.
Thank you, Lance and Aria, for that insight. Coming up, the story behind Senator John Fetterman's return to the Senate and an update on the Tennessee Senate. Stay tuned.
At Northwestern, we're Wildcats in every way.
Northwestern break right through that. With our colors flying, we will cheer you all to go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
At Northwestern University, we are pioneering innovation and achieving excellence across every imaginable discipline. At Northwestern University, the possibilities are endless.
Welcome back. This week, 2 members of the Tennessee Senate House returned to their posts after being expelled on April 6th. The expulsions occurred days after the members joined protesters in Nashville advocating for gun control. The protest came after 6 individuals, including 3 children, were killed in a shooting at the Covenant School. Here's Politicat's David Gold with the details.
Thank you, Paris. Tennessee State Representatives Justin Jones and Justin J. Pearson returned after being reappointed to fill their vacated seats. Pearson, who represents Tennessee's 86th district, was reinstated after Shelby County commissioners unanimously voted to send him back to the State House. Immediately after the vote, Pearson had this to say.
The message for all the people in Nashville who decided to expel us. You can't expel hope. You can't expel justice. You can't expel our voice. And you sure can't expel our fight.
Jones, who represents Tennessee's 52nd district, was unanimously reinstated by Nashville's Metro Council. He returned to the State House on Monday. Jones and Pearson were expelled from the Tennessee House after a GOP supermajority voted to dismiss the 2 members. A 3rd representative, Gloria Johnson, also faced an expulsion vote but survived. Jones, Johnson, and Pearson faced expulsion for, quote, bringing disorder and dishonor to the House of Representatives. The trio halted House proceedings to join protesters advocating for gun reform. In a statement on April 6, President Biden called the expulsions, quote, shocking and undemocratic. Paris?
Thank you, David. Both Jones and Pearson have indicated that they plan to seek re-election.
Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman returned to the Senate yesterday following inpatient treatment for clinical depression. Politicat's Brennan Leach has the story.
This November, Pennsylvania Democrat John Fetterman won a tight Senate race over TV star Mehmet Oz. But just 3 months after his swearing in, Fetterman checked himself into Walter Reed Hospital to be treated for depression. The announcement shocking Washington. At the Conservative Political Action Conference last month, Donald Trump Jr. saying this of Fetterman's condition.
It's sort of weird that Pennsylvania managed to elect a vegetable. I'd love for John Fetterman to have good gainful employment. Maybe he could be a bag guy at a grocery store.
Dr. Paul Pendler, a professor of psychiatry and behavioral sciences at Northwestern, says the politicization of treatment is inappropriate.
Mental health, physical abilities, all sorts of different abilities or challenges is all fair game and is being used in an insulting way.
Dr. Lisa Rosenthal, also a professor of psychiatry and behavioral sciences at Northwestern, says the stigma around mental health is still pervasive.
The good news is that we are living in times that are so much more accepting of psychiatric diagnoses and treatment than they ever have been. That said, there is still tremendous misunderstanding and stigma.
During his campaign, Fetterman suffered a near-fatal stroke. As a result, his work in the Senate is aided by live audio transcriptions and a closed captioning monitor to help him vote and preside over the chamber.
And I suspect, though, that politically people will attribute the visual aid as part of a deficit in intellectual functioning.
Fetterman checked out of the hospital last week and is expected to return to the Senate this week.
His condition's an interesting one in that he has battled depression for many years. In addition, because he's a post-stroke, there is a strong correlation to people post-strokes dealing with depression as well. So I think he's been a good poster child to say it's okay to talk about that and that people do get better.
It's a great opportunity for us to reframe the conversation that psychiatric diagnoses and symptoms happen in so many people.
Rosenthal says that Fetterman's experience has shed light on the need for increased screening.
The idea that he was diagnosed and treated actually also puts him in that elite category of people who actually got diagnosed.
Brennan Leach, Politicat.
Thank you, Brennan. After being released, Senator Fetterman said in a statement that, quote, depression is treatable and treatment works. Fetterman is expected to co-chair a panel on food assistance and nutrition programs on Wednesday. Well, that's all the time we have for tonight.
Thanks for joining us, and have a good night.